Imagine pulling into a driveway, seeing a cute little white house with a ramp outside leading up to the front door. As you walk up the ramp and into the house, you see a couple sitting in the living room with Law and Order on the TV. The older gentleman was watching the TV while his wife was knitting. As you continue to walk in, you hear the TV and the clicking of the knitting needles. As you breathe in and out, you get the smell of cooking in the kitchen. This is what it was like to walk into Tom's and Donna's house when I was growing up. As I'm talking to all of you, I remember what it was like to walk into their house, remembering all the good times I had with my grandma. I am one of Donna's favorite grandchildren, Morgan. I am here today to tell you about the beautiful life that Donna Leslie Young has lived. She went through some hardships from growing up with 6 sisters to having one son paralyzed, to having the love of her life die right in front of her. As I talk to you about her incredible life on this earth, I will touch base on her growing up in Wrightstown, how her family was her number one priority, how Christmas was her favorite holiday, how much she was involved with St. Joe's, and how she was the happiest when she left this earth. My grandma had an exciting life growing up. She was born on January 14th, 1938, in Wrightstown, Wisconsin, on a farm. She was the oldest of 7 girls. Her parents were Stella and Harold Liebergen. She always had a very special connection with her father. Every time her mother was pregnant, Donna would say to her dad, "I hope it's a boy for you, Dad." And he would say, "No, I'm good with some more girls." Her sisters' names were Karen, Vonnie, Sharon, Barb, Mary, and Joni. When I asked her about how it was like growing up with girls, she told me something like, "It was fine. I did a lot of babysitting for my parents and neighbors." Her family moved from Wrightstown to Appleton. When Donna was growing up, she attended different schools. One time she told me this story about how she went to school at St. Joe's from kindergarten to 9th grade, and she transferred to West for 10th. And she told her parents that I am dropping out of school if I don't get to go to St. Mary's for the rest of my high school years. From that moment on, I finally figured out that she has been a strong-headed woman from that day on until she passed away. For Donna, we all know that family was her number one priority. I remember when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time over there because my parents worked during the day, so my aunt and grandparents took care of me. Grandma once told me that family takes care of each other no matter what happens between them. That's the meaning of being a family. That stuck with me throughout the years. One of my favorite love stories is my grandparents. They were out bowling with friends, and the first time they went out, Tom took her home and said, "You are too young for me, but I'll bring you home anyway." The next time they all went out, Tom Leslie Young took her home and asked her out. We all know how that ended up, how that love story goes. On April 25th, 1959, they got married at St. Joe's. A year later, they had their first child. They kept coming until they ended up with 6 kids. Mark is the oldest, then John, then Sue, then Jim, then Pat, and then 10 years later, we have Mike. We all joke about how Mike was the accident, but Grandma would insist how much he was a blessing. I wanted this to be special, so I sat down with all the kids and asked them what their favorite thing about Grandma was. Mike told me that his favorite memory was when Dad and I would go hunting. Regardless of how early we got up, she was always up earlier and would have a full breakfast made. And if it was cold out, she would also have a coffee thermos like Dad's filled with hot chocolate for me. When I talked with his wife, Heidi, she told me that she always said how grateful she was to have grandchildren at all different ages so she could watch them all grow up. When I talked with Mark, he told me his favorite qualities about Donna was that she always made you feel loved, and that she was the most selfless person he knows. When I chatted with Jim, he told me that what he loved the most about Donna was her passion for playing cards. When I talked with Sue, she told me her favorite memory about Donna was when she was little. It was Christmas way back, and she was making an outfit for a Christmas present. She didn't get it done in time for Christmas, so she left a note saying, "Santa will finish it later." When I sat down and talked with my mom, She told me her favorite memory was when it was my first communion and Grandma made my dress. So we were getting on, and I put on the dress, and I had a bloody nose, and I had blood all over. And my mom remembers calling up Grandma and was like, Grandma, Mom, I need you to, Morgan has a bloody nose. I need you to fix it, and I am coming over. And Donna could fix anything that life threw at her. After talking to all the children, all of these favorite qualities were that she was a loving and caring mother who was always there for them. Another thing about that Grandma loved the most was her grandchildren. She spent most of her time watching her grandchildren play sports. I asked some of the grandchildren what their favorite memory is with Grandma. Thomas said that his favorite memory was when he went over for Valentine's Day and brought Grandma flowers, and Grandma's face just lit up. He even signed the card, I love you, Grandma, love Tom. It gets me every time. When I talked to my sister Jenny and asked about what her favorite qualities was, she said that Grandma is willing to help everyone out with no questions asked. One of Grandma's favorite holidays is Christmas. Christmas is always one of those holidays that you show up no matter what. If you're fighting with someone, or if you're not talking to them, or whatever in our family, since we have a big family, you are always at Christmas Eve. And that made Grandma the happiest. The other thing that made Grandma the happiest was Santa. Santa would come mostly every Christmas Eve and bring presents for all the grandchildren, no matter the ages. I mean, I still get one and I'm 21 now. But Grandma's favorite thing about Christmas was Santa, because the kids' faces just lit up. We all know that Grandma's life was church. She did so much volunteering at church. She loved it so much. Every Wednesday morning, she would go volunteer and work the front desk every Wednesday at 9 a.m. She would even go help out with the funerals, and she was in charge of the Arts and Crafts Center, which is like the sales, and she was also a communion distributor. But Grandma always liked to help other people out, no matter what. And one thing that I did not know until I was doing this was that she was the president of a Christian Ladies Society for 4 years. I never knew that. She was such a great lady. She also made baptismal gowns for the church. As Grandma grew up, she became into different hobbies. Her hobbies consisted of playing bingo every other Saturday night. She loved playing sheep's head every Thursday and Sunday. Every day, Grandma would get a newspaper, and she would do the word search daily. It always made me smile. She made me smile with her weird little things she liked. Her knitting every time of day, or her asking when the Brewers were playing, or just watching the Packer games with her. I remember talking to her about her favorite moments, and she told me she went out to Montana to go hunting with Tom, and she was like, I am never ever going hunting with you ever again. But, on the same thing, she went horseback riding hunting with him, and because it wasn't your usual trail, because we all know Tom. If he wasn't different, you weren't doing it right. The path was up in the mountains, and it was like on the ledge. It wasn't like a big path. It was like a ledge of a mountain. But Grandma said it wasn't her cup of tea, but it made Tom happy, so she did it. Up until the day she died, she was working at St. Joe's every morning. Before she passed away, she told me to keep the tradition going on Christmas Eve. Her grandchildren were her pride and joy. She even had a couple great-grandchildren she got to spend time with before she passed. When I talked about my grandma's life, I feel that she lived a fantastic experience. I wish she was here to see me walk down the aisle and watch her grandchildren grow up. I know that if she was here, she would tell me to keep going for what I want, and you do not need all those tattoos. I know I am talking for everyone here when I say that she made an impact on our lives. I only remember bits and pieces of my childhood with my grandma, but I do know that as I have grown up and I have spent pretty much every day with her for the past couple years, that I have learned so much from her. She has helped shape me into the person I am today. One thing Grandma wanted me to remind you is that she lived her life to the fullest. So celebrate my life with a party and not with crying. When I think I'm speaking for everyone, I love you and I miss you. I will miss you so much. Love you, Grandma.